Now moving on to the third section of the story. In this part, stakes get higher and higher to a climax and sets the player up for the final conflict. After exploring the sewers for a while, Claire runs into a new character, Annette. She's Sherry's mom and William Birkin's wife. Here it is revealed that the monster that was following Sherry is in fact her father, William Birkin. She tells Claire about Birkin's story and how the virus spread through the city. And this is done via a cutscene. Basically, Umbrella has sent in agents to get the G-Virus sample from Birkin. But he refuses to hand it over, so they shoot him and get the virus. But Birkin has hid a sample, so while dying he uses it on himself. This turns him into a monster, and he hunts down and kills the agents. In the process of doing this, vials of virus are broken and we see some rats eating from them. So finally we get to know how the virus was spread through the city by these infected rats. She mentions that it is too late to save William, and William should have lost all memories from his prior life by now. According to Annette, every G-Virus bioweapon, including Birkin, has the ability to plant embryos in others. Since Sherry is related to Birkin, her body will not reject the virus, and that is why he is after her. Suddenly, Claire and Annette hear a girl scream, and assuming that is Sherry, decide to split up to look for her. After some more exploration, Claire finds Sherry after fighting a giant alligator. They get to a lift that goes down to the Umbrella Labs below. Here, Claire faces a further transformed Birkin, who seems to lose his human form more and more with each transformation. After the fight, the elevator arrives at the labs and Claire takes Sherry to a safe room. Here we have a moment of bonding between Sherry and Claire. Sherry tells Claire how she has been always alone because of her parents working all the time. But now that she has Claire, she has someone to rely upon. This is a nice calm moment before the final section of the game, kind of like a calm before the storm. So from here on, Claire's primary goal is to find a cure for Sherry. After some exploration and bringing the power back in the labs, Claire meets Annette again for another climax. This time she's mad and accuses Claire of killing her husband. Again, Claire tells her about Sherry's situation, which reduces her hostility. Birkin, who has transformed even more, shows up again and fatally wounds Annette. She gives the formula for the antidote for the G-Virus to Claire and tells her to let Sherry know she's sorry that she was not a good mother to her before dying. So here we have ourselves a little bit of a tragedy in the story. The facility goes into self-destruct mode right after, which takes up the tension a notch, and from here on Claire's goal is clear: to get the antidote and flee the facility. And this concludes the part 3 of the story and sets the player up for the final part of the game. In this part, things seem to get worse and worse up to the climax. Claire fights Birkin, but he keeps coming back, and it seems there is no way to defeat him. Also, Sherry's condition seems to get worse and worse. However, towards the end, as things seem to go the wrong way, there is a glimmer of hope as Claire gets her hands on the formula for the G-Virus antidote. But there is still Birkin in the way, who at the end of this section has lost all traces of humanity and is fully a monster now. On top of that, the facility has started a self-destruct sequence. So in summary, there is a final fight to be had, but the path for the hero is clear. Make the antidote and get out. We also had some character development in this section. The obvious one is Birkin, which is losing his humanity, which is reflected in his appearance changing. Annette also goes through a change as she's a mom who is always working and neglecting her child, but at the end she realizes she was wrong, but it is too late for her. There is also a moment of bonding between Claire and Sherry, which is nice. Now we get to the fourth and final section, which is the final crisis and the resolution of the story. Right after leaving Annette, Claire sees Leon on the security monitors and tells him to get Sherry from the safe room. At this point, Claire has to go through the labs to get the ingredients for the antidote, and after acquiring them, she has to mix them to make the antidote. After getting the antidote, Claire goes to an elevator which leads to a train that goes out of the facility. Here again it is almost like the hero is succeeding, but all of a sudden Birkin shows up again. And this is the climax for this part. After the boss fight, we have the resolution of the story, which is Claire getting to the train where she meets Leon and Sherry there. She gives Sherry the antidote and they get out of the city. As I mentioned before, this is only part of the story as there are 2 scenarios to be played to get the whole story, and after finishing the game, Claire gets a new save game for the Leon scenario to continue the game from there. In summary, the story for the Claire scenario can be divided in 4 parts, with each part ending with a climax. The first part is all about the setup and the introduction to our heroes, and it is all in cutscenes. The second part is getting to know the police department and what has happened there, but things are not serious yet. The third part is where things get serious and a character that you care for is in grave danger. We also get the whole story behind villain Birkin, who is the main villain of the game, and the G-Virus and how it spread in the city. The last part is basically the boss fight and the resolution of the story, which is again in cutscenes. There is also some character development, mostly for Annette and Sherry. The story of Resident Evil 2 is linear, however, since it has been divided in 2 different scenarios, it can be played out differently based on which order you play them. This adds some replayability to the game as well, which is nice. The story is told via cutscenes, dialogue and text. Sometimes the story is revealed via in-game events and the environment, but that is rare. In my opinion, the story is very well structured from the beginning to the end with frequent climaxes, which keeps things interesting throughout. You have some nice character development, especially towards the end, which makes you care about the characters in the game and their story. This is especially good in a horror game, since the more you care for the characters in the game and their well-being, the easier it becomes for the developers to create scary situations in the game. It is also very interesting the way the story is told from the 2 protagonists' perspective, which adds replayability to the game. Now the opportunities for improvements. I think part 1 could be made playable instead of being in cutscenes, and has a lot of potential for creating tension and scary situations before a player is thrown into action. Kinda like the beginning of Silent Hill 1 and the dream sequence there. In part 2, Chief Iron's character was a missed opportunity in my opinion, as by reading the memos, player understands early on that he's evil. I think it would be much more interesting if the player did not know this, or even it would seem like that he is actually the good guy instead, and then somehow towards the end of part 2 it will be suddenly revealed that he's actually an evil guy. In part 3 I would like to see the Birkin character in a different way. It would be more interesting if he actually had not lost all his humanity, but he was in a constant struggle to fight his animal side to stop himself from hurting Sherrier and Annette. And in the climax, instead of Claire defeating him, it would be Birkin's human side who would take control of the G-Virus for a final moment and kill himself to stop himself from hurting Sherry. Well, that's it for this time guys. Hope you liked the video, and if so, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos. Also, let me know if you have any ideas about how the story could be improved in Resident Evil 2 in other ways, and leave your ideas in the comment section below. We might discuss your ideas in some future videos. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.